All right, just gonna go over the companies that we have positions in right now. Thomson Reuters was up to about 48.49 about a month ago, and it's come back quite a bit since then. But the company's doing really well. They have increased their profits overseas, which was an issue last quarter. But this quarter, they done really well, and they're really just following the market down right now. Rogers Communications, they are moving to get out of their sports teams that they own, which is going to make them more of a pure telecommunications company versus the kind of hodgepodge entertainment company that they are now. As far as phone lines and things of that nature, it seems to be fairly stable. Not a whole lot of movement, not a lot of improvement, but not doing any worse either. And the best thing about Rogers Communications that I really like is that they don't have the same um, competition that the U.S. Telecommunication companies have, and we'll look at this in more detail when we look at the industry. American Electric Power is having some problems right now in Oklahoma. Otherwise, everything is going well for them. They are moving to have some um, um, what do you call it? The renewable energy wind projects and things of that nature approved and get going. Every utility company is moving in that direction. They're not relying so much on government subsidies, even though it is part of the package. So is the tax as well. But they're one of the electric companies or utility companies rather that they rely primarily on coal for generation. They also build out equipment for other utility companies. So I really like that diversified service portfolio that they have, where they're not just generating electricity, but they're also selling services to other utility companies. ExxonMobil is doing really well. They are in talks with this whole climate change thing. They're being sued right now, and it's been going back and forth in court whether or not they knew that oil was causing climate change and things of this nature. I don't expect anything to really come of that, especially with the current administration. But it is something that is kind of hovering over the company, and no one really knows, how it's going to play out. As of right now, they're really kind of just being beat up on. But again, numbers are good, revenue looks good. They're just following the market. Coca-Cola. Honestly, I have not gotten into the earnings results as of this current quarter. Last quarter, it was really just about the same. They have basically congealed all of the European bottling companies, and so they're still realizing a lot of savings from that perspective. Their biggest thing is trying to figure out how to get the most money with the least amount of packages, right? So they're doing fairly well with water. They're doing really well with Monster. I think some of the Coca-Cola branded items aren't doing so well over in Europe. But the numbers look really good, though. The company is only, I think, a year old this year, so they're still figuring some things out. But we're happy where they are. We actually have a little bit of a profit with them, but because of this super high commission rate here, we're not going to have a sales signal. And this is primarily due, just in case you forgot or it's been a long time, this is due to the convergence of the companies when they merged, right? There was a fee involved with the merging, and I elected to use that fee as a commission instead of just some, one-time fee. And so that's the reason why we don't have a sale on these guys. And we'll wait to realize that there's not a problem there. Pfizer, again, doing really well. Their big thing right now is immunization. I can't say that. Immunization. cancer therapies, which is basically treating cancer with medicine. And so they've had some breakthroughs and some tests that have gone their way, but nothing major as of yet. Immunization, yeah. But anyway, they haven't had any really big breakthroughs. But everything is together. They're looking at selling off their generic or over the counter items to maybe Johnson Johnson or someone like that, which will make them a more pure bio medical company versus kind of a consumer plus biomedical company, which a lot of companies are doing right now. I know Johnson Johnson is basically all consumer stuff with no biomedicine there. There may be some, but not a lot. And Pfizer is really kind of half and half. So they've been talking about breaking up this company for a long time. If they do, no one knows which parts are going to go where. I don't expect that to happen anytime soon. If they do sell off their consumer unit, we may see a bump up in price, but it could also mean that the stock becomes a bit riskier, right? And so the price may be hit for that. So right now we do have a little bit of a profit, but not enough to trigger a sale. Not sure what the current price is right now. We'll look at that here in a little while. GE, of course, has been in the news quite a bit. The old CEO is gone. They have a new CEO who is really trying to rearrange and change, and no one likes so far what has happened. The last controversy was an insurance company that they've owned for a really long time but have never really spoke about until it was found out that there wasn't enough cash to cover some of their insurance contracts. And so now what they're doing is they're taking the cash from GE Capital, which is the finance arm of GE, and using that cash to shore up the insurance contracts. So what that means is the parent company, GE, can no longer get that $2 billion of cash from GE Capital. So that's a huge hit. I don't expect this company to go anywhere. There are talks of selling off some pieces of it, which have already been done. I seriously doubt they break up the company. If they do, I will be very interested in which pieces get kind of grouped together, because I would definitely like to stay with the industrial side of things, the Internet of Things on their industrial side. So most of the parts of the company are doing well. Aviation is doing well. GE Medical is doing well. The power and water companies are the ones that are hurting and causing a lot of the problems with their financials. If they were to break those off or sell, well, if they were to break those off, then we can definitely see an increase in the stock price for the other side of the company, right? If they were to sell those companies off, then it's very possible that the price will be hit again. So we definitely want to go in and buy more of this thing. Again, like I said, it's the highest return as of right now. We're sitting at 100 shares, so we can double that without a whole lot of money. And the dividend is, back close to the 4% that we like to see. It's about, I think, 3.5% right now, which is decent. We'll also look at our options for options. That's always something that I look at. As of right now, the premiums are not high enough for us to really make any money with the options, but that's something that I'll continue to monitor. Annaly is another interesting one. It's actually has the second largest deficit. which means the highest return if we were to purchase this company. Right now, the price is right around $10. We're in at 11.73. But the cool thing about this company is they have something like an 11% dividend. Not to mention, this is a solid company. Okay, we're talking about mortgage. Not services, but they basically buy and sell mortgage securities. So very stable. Nothing's going on with the housing market at all. This thing is just being beat up by the rest of the market is really what's going on. Their numbers have been fairly decent. Cash flow is good. A lot of people rave about their preferred shares, which is in itself basically a dividend. However, the dividend is lower for preferred shares because there's not the opportunity for price appreciation. I'm happy with our position where we are. It hasn't moved too much considering what's going on in the market, and the dividend seems to be intact. If they do cut the dividend, it will have some negative impacts for sure. But the dividend will still be, a decent dividend. It'll still be pretty high, at least 8%. So we'll look into possibly getting some more Annaly as well. And again, we have 200 shares, so I'm always looking at our options for options. Again, premiums haven't really been high enough. I think if the last time I looked, if I go out like way out to something like July 2019 or something, you can make a little bit of money on some options, but that's way too far for us to really look. Weyerhaeuser, great company, doing exactly what we wanted to do. It hasn't moved around much at all. I think we do have a little bit of a profit on these guys, but not enough to trigger a sales signal, which is almost always the case. Typically, when the price goes up high enough to sell, it's in the middle of the month, and I'm not trading in the middle of the month, right? So it's just going to be patience, okay? It's just going to be waiting, but decent dividend. The company is doing well. There's a Canadian tariff on lumber, or I should say a U.S. tariff on Canadian lumber right now. And so that is causing some changes in the business, but they're doing great though, and it hasn't hampered anything. China's still growing, Japan is still growing, so they're selling a lot of lumber there. The U.S. housing market, as far as new builds, is not at its highest peak right now, which is not a bad thing because it means it can always get better, right? If the U.S. housing market does take a dip, then we will possibly see Weyerhaeuser come back just a little bit. TD Ameritrade, TD Dominion Bank has just completed its merger or acquisition rather of Scottrade, and they're also moving into the crypto space, which they've done over the past couple months. And so it's possible that they're seeing some added earnings from that. We had a sales signal on this just maybe about a week ago, and that has gone away. So we'll hold on and just kind of ride the wave and see what's going on. Seagate, we sold out of Seagate, like I said, about maybe a month or two ago, and I have not replaced it, really just kind of waiting for the market to calm down a bit. Right now, Seagate is back down around, I believe, 54, and I believe it's still like the number one tech stock or close to it anyway. So let's take a look at our industry,